Before we begin, I would like to extend a huge thanks to Abel, who has been translating our works into Brazilian Portuguese, allowing us to reach a whole new audience that wouldn't have been possible. Abel, thank you for your work. We are finally journeying to Brazil in this episode. We will also be donating this month's proceeds to the charity active in Brazil of Abel's choice. By the time this is posted, you'll see the name of it on the screen here. That said, let's dive in. Brazil is home to more uncontacted peoples than any other country, most of whom live in a voluntary isolation, parallel to the rest of the world, aware of yet never intersecting with it. Yet, over the past century, as Brazil's national society has expanded deeper into the continent, many indigenous cultures could no longer remain in isolation. Contact brought change not only to these indigenous cultures, but also to the surrounding society, encountering approaches to life, death, and spirituality that had existed unknown to them within their country for thousands of years. Among those changed by contact were the Vilas Boas brothers, who encountered the people of the upper Xingu region of Mato Grosso in the Brazilian interior. They came to the region as pioneers, tasked with building infrastructure for the government, and they stayed for over 20 years as activists, living with the natives and serving as their advocates to the surrounding society. Two of the brothers, Orlando and Claudio, introduced the outside world to Xinguano culture by translating their stories for the first time. The result is a look into a unique approach to story, ritual, and spirituality, of a culture meeting the modern world on its own terms. My name is Sean. Welcome to Mythos and Logos. The peoples of the Xingu, though they speak many unrelated languages, have lived peacefully with each other for generations, and as such they have developed a shared culture and mythology with only relatively minor differences between each group. One such group, the Kamaiurá, tell of Mavutzinim, the ancestral being existing alone in the world before even the sun and the moon were born. Stories tell of how the lonely Mavutzinim creates companions to break his solitude. Mavutzinim creates the first woman from a shell, leaving her to transform back after birthing their son. He later carves daughters out of wood. Some perish, but others, particularly those carved from the Quarup tree, survive. Humanity, it is said, are the descendants of Mavutzinim's grandchildren. Yet the threat of loneliness comes once more for Mavutzinim when death comes to humanity. Not wanting people to die, the Creator creates a ritual for their resurrection. He places posts of Quarup wood, that which made his surviving daughters, in the center of the people's village, painting and decorating them with feathers, necklaces, and threads. He brings fish and bread for the people, who shake maracas and sing for the wood to come to life. The people paint themselves and shout and want to weep by the evening, but Mavutzinim tells them not to, as there's nothing to weep for. The dead will soon be resurrected. All through the second day, Mavutzinim continues the ritual, and as the wood begins to take human form, he forbids the people from looking. Only on the third day does he order the villagers to come out and spread joy for the new life which is to come. All the villagers, that is, except for any who had laid together the night before. But one man, who had spent the previous night with his wife, cannot contain his curiosity, and when he lays eyes on the Quarup posts, they instantly turn back to wood. Mavutzinim is furious at the taboo being broken, and tells the people that from then on, the dead will never come back to life. The ceremony, called the Quarup after the wood used, would remain only as a memorial to those who have passed. Perhaps it was inappropriate for the couple to lay with each other, a life-creating act, during the funeral and resurrection. Or perhaps the man's only mistake was going against the Creator-in-Chief's command to hide himself. The Villas-Boas brothers purposefully refrained from interpreting the stories that were told to them. But regardless, the story makes it clear that the purpose of the Quarup going forward would be giving the living the opportunity for a memorial. And we will return to the Quarup and its living participants, but for now, we will follow another Xinguanu story, beyond the ritual, and to the world of spirits. This story from the Xingu tells of two friends who could not bear to be apart from each other, promising to be together even in death. Each day the friends hunt and vow that whoever outlives the other will search on until he finds the other's spirit, crafting a bow and arrows so the departed can still fish and hunt in the next life. And when one of the friends in time dies, the one left behind, named Aravutará, searches for him in all of the places that they would frequent together. Aravutará finds no sign of his friend, until one day the sun goes dark in an eclipse. On the usual hunting trail, Aravutará hears faint laughter, the sound of the mamaes, the spirits of the dead. He sees the mamaes adorned with feathers, carrying bows and arrows as if going off to war. And at the rear of the group, Aravutará sees his departed friend. He makes his presence known, and while the other spirits complain about the terrible smell of the living, Aravutará's friend tells him that they're off to a festival where they will battle with the birds. And true to his vow to walk with his friend always, Aravutará joins the spirits on their march. When he camps with the mamaes that night, Aravutará's friend warns him not to fall asleep. But he does, and is scared when he wakes and sees his friend transformed into a snake, a reminder of the strange, parallel world in which the man finds himself. But by the morning, the spirits return to their familiar form, and the group departs to a battle. The mamaes prove to be surprisingly frail, as even the slightest injury will lead to their ultimate, final death. They're scared at even crossing a field of sharp grass until Aravutará tramples it. The dead depend upon their living companion. Also, when they warn him of the huge and fearsome club-wielding beasts blocking their path ahead. These monsters are simple frogs, and Aravutará handles them with ease. Their next enemies are also amphibious, crabs, like the frogs living between the water and the land, just as our adventurers are in the strange place between the realms of the living and the dead, and just as the eclipse brings the world to a place between light and darkness. But while the crabs are fearsome to the mamaes, the living Aravutará once again defeats them with ease. When the journey of the mamaes is complete, their final battle begins at the festival. Every species of bird from the jungle are gathered, and once more, the living man supports the departed spirits in their fight. In the clash, the birds started to kill off the mamaes by pecking at them. They were dying one after the other, and the two friends smeared themselves with charcoal and joined the fight. When the mamaes had almost given up, the friend spirit asked Aravutará, "Shout, my friend, to scare the birds away for a while. Play your flute to get rid of these birds." And he played on and on because he did not want the birds to kill the mamaes. With Aravutará's help, the spirits forced the birds to retreat, with many losses on both sides. As Aravutará gathers the many-colored feathers, he and his friend watch the bird carry off the defeated mamaes to their chief, a gigantic eagle, who eats them In the end, the spirit friend says, that final death awaits all, as the battle festival happens every time the sun goes dark in the middle of the day. With the battle done, the friend brings Aravutará back to where they once hunted and disappears, leaving him one final time. When Aravutará returns to his village, he tells his people what they saw, bringing them the feathers he collected. He tells them how, when he played the flute in the battle, he heard the shouts of his people in response, which helped the spirits, and tells them that if they send their dead to the next life with weapons and protective adornments, it will support them in their battle, that their spirits may live longer before finally going to the Great Eagle. If you were to visit the Upper Xingu, you might not be able to see the spirits in the jungle. You will hear music, and the shouting of fierce men as they prepare for a great battle. But this is not the type of battle that you may expect. The Xingu, despite its many different peoples, is one of the most peaceful regions in the world. These combatants, painting themselves with charcoal and fruit dyes, are preparing themselves for wrestling matches. And the occasion is not a war, but a funeral. The Quarup Festival, established by the creator Mavutsnim, as we explored in the first story. During the festival, 3 posts of Quarup wood are established in the center of the village, and decorated with feathers, necklaces, and threads in complex patterns, signifying who the deceased were in life, just like those placed by Mavutsnim in the first Quarup. The dual nature of the ceremony is demonstrated by the different genders, whose lives are traditionally very separate. Women prostrate themselves before the posts and weep for their departed loved ones, while the men chant energetically, shaking maracas, giving energy to the spirits, which at least for a time live within the trunks. Their resurrection is impossible, as Mavutsinim determined in the first Quarup. Yet in observing the Quarup, one sees the energy of the departed spirits around flowing through the living people gathered there. And as the Quarup continues, the focus shifts more to the living. When those who were closest to the departed retreat to their homes, dozens of girls who have had their first period since the last Quarup come out of their huts and present themselves to the people. The ritual becomes a fusion, 1 part funeral and 1 part debutante ball. They are living flesh and blood examples of life, which will bring forth the next generation, present even in the midst of mourning at the funeral. Then, together, the men and women decorate themselves and dance in honor of the departed. The living men then demonstrate their might before the spirits and the people gathered at the Quarup. As Aravutará painted himself when he aided the spirits in their battle with the birds, the strongest men cover themselves with paint and feathers, imitating spiritually and mythically significant animals like jaguars and birds. The young men have spent years dreaming of and preparing for what follows. A series of wrestling matches. The people cheer on their fighters as the ceremony becomes a celebration of the strength and vigor that only the living can have. When the matches conclude, the posts of Quarup wood are set aside, as the spirits within have now departed. And yet the celebration continues, the focus now entirely upon the living. Whenever I want to learn about an unfamiliar culture, I start with history. Maybe not surprising, since I was once a history teacher. History helps us to understand the foundations of who we are today. And yet, stories like these remind us why we remember the past. Not only as reminders of where we have been, but as guides providing the context for us to shape the future. Xinguanu history is fascinating. It is the story of unrelated peoples speaking entirely different languages, each coming to one place over the course of centuries. Some came to the Upper Xingu fleeing other indigenous groups, others fleeing the Portuguese. Yet, despite the often tragic reasons behind their arrival to the region, the survivors built the complex and peaceful society encountered by the Villas-Boas brothers. A society which is now studied by academics searching for how we might achieve peace in our time. This society is not only a product of the past, but is made by the living, who celebrate the shared rituals at its foundation even today. The Villas-Boas brothers knew their history, and had seen the often disastrous consequences of first contact between the old and new worlds, even first-hand when European diseases first reached the Xingu post-contact. Yet, knowing history, the brothers focused on the future of the living, advocating for the Xinguanos to the Brazilian government, and this led to the creation of the Xingu Indigenous Park, a piece of land the size of Lebanon set aside for the Xingu to integrate with the outside world at their own pace, on their own terms. Today, about 13% of Brazil's land is permanently set aside as indigenous territory, and the Villas-Boas brothers, for their part, were nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize for their advocacy, and when Orlando Villas-Boas died in 2002, a Quarup was held in his honor. The world continues today to change around the Xingu, as it does around us. Yet the stories and rituals which have allowed their society to thrive even in the face of such drastic change give principles which can help us, whether we are personally grieving the loss of a friend or culturally adjusting to a world of rapid change. Remembering that it is those of us living here and now who have power, we can both grieve for and honor the past, and allow its spirit to flow through and energize us as we shape the future that we choose.